Well, of course, Xoli, we're getting many mixed reactions from political parties with regards to the ANC and how they have handled the elections. And we'll continue with our special coverage on voting day of the 2024 general elections, which has been marred by long queues and disruptions, as you know, Xoli, at some voting stations. Now, the ANC spokesperson, Mahlengi Bhengu-Motsiri, joins us now for some reflections on her party. Mabeng, thank you so much for your time. I'm sure you must be so exhausted. You were voting in Bosonia. You accompanied the president to Soweto. It must have been a very busy day today.
It's been a very hectic day, and it's also been a day where we celebrate democracy, because if you look at the numbers of our people that are still queuing, yes, even now as I speak, is a strong showing for the democracy project.
Speaking about people that are still queuing, I spoke earlier on to the IEC's chair, and he alluded to some political parties busing in voters at voting stations, and this could possibly be one of the contributions to the long queues that are still seeing, and possibly people will still be voting until 2 o'clock in the morning. Is this a strategy that the ANC also undertook?
Well, we've relied on people that live in that voting district in line with the set rules and regulations. We haven't had a situation where we needed to bus people because it must be people who live in that particular area. And we've noted some of the glitches associated with long queues and so on, but we are confident that the IEC is capable of managing this work as best as possible.
So with that said, you, in terms of your reflections on how the IEC has handled the work up until voting at 9 p.m. today, you would say as a party that you're satisfied?
We are comfortable with the work they've been doing. Also do recall that a number of party agents that have done this work before, some of whom are members of SATU, some of whom are teachers or civil servants, had to be withdrawn as a consequence of that particular decision. So we're also quite alive to the fact that the team that is manning some of the voting stations really need a lot of experience, and over time they will have that experience. It's a chance to also enable South Africans who can contribute to the democracy project to be allowed to do so. There's never been a time when the IEC has failed to deliver a successful election in South Africa. And I think we need to give the IEC a chance to be able to conclude this work.
I mean, your party a little over an hour ago posted on your X page urging voters to be patient and to stay in the queues even post the 9 p.m. closure. Yes. What's your take on these snaking queues that continue, especially in places like KwaMashu we saw in Durban as well as in Thokoza?
Well, it's also a higher voter turnout, which is really good for democracy. I think that should be our framework or, frame of reference. And we may not have seen some of these things before because we have had uneven patterns of voter turnout. So that itself is actually a positive indication of the extent to which South Africans are taking their individual votes seriously in order to contribute to popular participation, to contribute to democracy. And I think it is a good thing. It can be managed, it will be managed. We really, really have a lot of trust in the work of the Independent Electoral Commission.
In terms of numbers and some data collection that you've possibly done throughout the day, do you know how many supporters of the ANC have come out in making their mark?
We can say with certainty that a number of our people have come out. Young people have come out. The elderly have come out, and the elderly, of course, because they've got a very keen appreciation of what it took South Africa to achieve democracy and the sacrifices made and the strides that have been made. And so we're quite comfortable with the level of turnout, both among young people. There was always this narrative that, young people are disaffected, disenchanted, and so on. But I think that this election has shown once more that young people are really taking stock of their future, and they're taking the future into their own hands. And I think this is something to be celebrated by South Africans regardless of political persuasions. On the part of the ANC, our campaign has been very robust, very modest, very positive, very clean, and at the same time quite bullish. And we've seen a lot of young people participating in many of our campaigns. I mean, there was always this notion that, the ANC is an ANC of older people. But we've seen young people showing up very strongly for the African National Congress, and we're grateful and are thankful for that.
All right, I suppose what's left now is just for us to be looking out for those numbers. I can't imagine the anxiety that is happening at Luthuli House at the moment.
We're going to be here tomorrow, and we're going to be watching the scoreboard very carefully. Yeah. And we are aiming for an outright majority. And we remain optimistic, and we can't wait for the counting to begin.
Well, we certainly will be looking at those numbers together with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And congratulations on your campaign. We certainly will see how those numbers will be panning out. There you have it, Xoli. That was the ANC spokesperson, Mahlengi Bhengu-Motsiri, speaking to us there about their anticipation of what those numbers will be, and also just the reflection of what the elections were today and the hope and the trust they have in the IEC.